Hi everyone, it's May 9th, 2024, and this is the weekly Backdrop Developer Meeting. We get together every week to talk about development priorities for Backdrop CMS. My name is Nate Lampton, Quick Sketch on the internet, core commander and technical lead for the Backdrop project. We've got a little group here today on the eve of the Backdrop 128 release. And we're going to be talking about the progress there and how that release is coming together. First, we'll do some introductions. I've got only a handful of people here today, but we'll start off with Tim and then we'll go to Justin.
Yeah, I'm Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim in Deerwood, Minnesota, and we'll leave it at that today.
Thanks, Tim. Justin and then Jen.
Justin Kaiser, Kaiser JB on the internet in Muncie, Indiana.
Thanks, Justin. And Jen.
Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California.
All right, that's all that we've got today. Let's see. Oh, before we get into core talk, Jen, do you want to give us the contrib update?
Sure, got some activity going on in Contrib today. We have two new open contributor applications. Let's see. I'm going to try and get these names right, but we'll see. The first one is Shawshank the Gale 11. And they are creating a new project called OAuth Client. And we also have an application, a more recent application from Ale Madley, and they are working on the Salesforce Contrib module. We also have a handful of new modules that came out in the last week. Linked Field, Book Made Simple, and Google Translator all are brand new releases this week.
Great.
That's it.
Right,
Oh,
looks like
Greg's here.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
joined here by Greg. Do you want to give a quick introduction? We just
yeah,
finished the start of things.
Yeah, just missed it. Yeah, I'm Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne. Interested in anything that has to do with Backdrop in any way that I can help. Excited about the upcoming new release. That's it. A lot of activity.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, let's get into issues. I'm going to share my screen for purposes of following along. So here in the agenda, we've got a number of little follow-up issues that we're working on for 128. This first one we actually have already finished, but it's important. It was a heavy topic of discussion over the past couple of days, but past week, ever since we merged in the SVG icons into the admin toolbar. This is a before and after screenshot of the old icons versus the new icons, and as part of it, the font size was increased and the spacing between items was also increased. This caused some consternation with viewers trying out the preview release of Backdrop 128 because on smaller screens, the admin bar secondary tasks were ending up collapsing or hamburgerizing quicker or sooner. So this new set of changes here, let's see, this is, okay, so this is the way it, this is the way it was, and this is the way it is now. So it's been tightened up quite a bit. The thing I like about, this has already been merged, but the thing I like about this change is that it did a couple of things. It reduced the height down back to the same height as the previous admin bar. So I think from 38 pixels back down to 33 pixels. But it kept the increased font size. So we increased the font from size 11 to size 12. But it took away a bunch of margins. So so the dimensions of it, at least vertically, are the same as the old admin bar. But the font size has been increased one level, and that still makes it more readable. So I'm pretty happy with the way that this whole issue shook out. Although I kind of liked the larger spacing. You know, the arguments that this could potentially disrupt some front end themes, even though it's only for administrators, is valid. But I'm happy where this ended up. We also did something, sorry, this, preview is full of comments here, this code preview, but because we started using CSS properties or variables for icons in core as part of the icon API, we used this as an opportunity to also define a CSS property for the overall height of the admin bar. So if you do have a theme that is setting the height of the admin bar and you want to be compatible with changes in the future to the admin bar's height, you can use this CSS property inside of your own theme to set an offset at the top of your theme to basically allow core to change this value if the admin bar were to get taller in the future. This will adjust this variable, and then your theme will use the variable, and then your theme won't have to make any changes. That's the concept here. So here's what it looks like in use. Since we use this property inside of admin bar CSS itself, the border top that is added to the body of the page, you just use the variable here to get the height value. There's also a follow-up issue that I'm also in favor of that Izzy filed. Here we go. That is allow the admin bar font size to be changed via the UI or in settings.php. This would also be nice just to possibly have this option for people like me that like the larger or like an even larger font size. Then we could increase the font size more.
Yeah, we already have a settings form for the admin bar anyway, so we have a place to put the setting if we want to expose it.
And another part of this effort here is that we converted all of admin bar to use ems instead of pixels. So it's all dependent upon the font size of the admin bar, which is one value here. So if you wanted to increase the font size, say from 12 pixels to 14 pixels, or I'll even do it even more just to demonstrate it. Okay, so this is 16 pixels. So this is a 16 pixel font size, but the whole admin bar now scales properly, including all of the icons, based on that one value. So all of the paddings and all of the margins and everything like that all adjust based on the font size of the admin bar.
That's great.
So it's very easy to change now.
One thing that with all the activity, I didn't get a chance to file a follow-up for this specifically because I filed a lot of follow-ups. Apologies. But if you click on any of those top level menus just to get one active one, just go in any one, content, whatever. So the contrast now is really bad in the active one. And now that we have SVGs that respond to the background and the font color, it would be a great opportunity to just fix this because the contrast is really terrible there. It could be white on black or something like that. And there was a respective thing that happened in Drupal land as well.
Yeah, possibly just darkening up this background, I think would be the easy solution to increase the contrast. Yeah, you're right that is difficult to read. That was not changed in any way.
No, it wasn't. It was before. It's just with SVGs now it's going to be easier because the icons will follow the color of the text.
Yeah, I'm curious what it would look like if people like small admin bars. You know, like you could take it down. It looks like there's a little extra margin there, which is unusual. That might be
I think the offset is fixed.
Yeah, it should yeah, the offset should. Oh, you know what? This is my local where I haven't updated yet. But this should fix it. Yeah, so it's now I am not an expert in rems and ems, and I honestly thought ems were kind of overrated up until this issue, and I was like, oh, that's it. But I think this is a special case because I think the idea of adjusting your base font size, like at the body tag level, is extraordinarily rare and not something that you would ever do. But
It's really useful if you have an accessibility setting on your theme that's like increase my font size and you let people do it like via a tool rather than via their browser, because then you can scale the whole thing. But yeah, I agree. Most people use their browsers.
yeah, exactly. Most people use their browsers and it just adjusts what a pixel is. So it's compatible with all CSS. But this is a really good example of a good value of it because the font size is set on a particular element. And this, I think, is really awesome. Like the idea of having like an individual component that its font size may adjust, and then you adjust the font size, and it's working with a smaller set of elements. So I don't know, maybe it would be possible to get all of core into this state where it's using ems instead of pixels, but it would be a large undertaking because there's just pixels everywhere in core. So the admin bar height though is in rems, which somehow is font size independent. So
Well, so is the admin bar font size. It's also in rems. Like the
oh
other.
yes, yeah.
And then everything is relative to that for the admin bar. So this is relative to the page, and then admin bar is relative to itself. So it
Yep.
kind of makes sense.
So anyway, I'm really pleased with this little set of fixes. Looks great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get into let's see. Actually, let's stick with the 128 issues for a minute here. So this is a nice little follow-up that's just a little request. Oh, Greg's here. That said that we should put this on the status report, like what kind of
Yeah.
config storage is in use, which would be a very good idea just to, this would have twofold purposes. It would, of course, let people know what they're using, but it could also surface the fact that you can change this value because we don't describe the fact that this can be changed anywhere in the user interface in all of core. It is accessible or visible in settings.php, but if people are updating and they don't update their settings.php, they're not going to find this value or this capability.
Because we cannot switch currently as it is. I know that Joseph is working on a contrib module that will allow switching. I was hesitant to add some help text, but I was thinking that maybe we can point to the API page that explains
change notice. Yeah.
So a couple of things there that I went with because there were concerns in the issue where we added the debug information with exposing directories. I refrained from actually saying which directories are there. Although, as I said, you need specific permissions to come here. But people had concerns of copying and pasting that information and just skipping that or totally having it out of your mind. And it is security concern, so I'm leaving it out. The other thing that I wanted is like, I know that in core we provide files or database, but in theory, that's like, do we allow modules to specify other things, and that should I be accounting for that here or just that?
Isn't there a name on the like?
So I'm only indicating whether files or database is being used, but can other backends be used for storing that? Like,
Can't you just use the name of the backend?
we don't specifically have the name of the backend, I think. Like, we
Yeah.
don't have a string that we name the backends, but we could do that, yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Just as an API expansion, have a label method inside of the storage classes so that you could get the name of it.
Which is the same with the configuration directory. Like, we don't have a specific string for the active and the staging directory. We just parse the human readable name which says active, and we do something with it. So we don't specifically have an array with names for these things. I was checking the documentation because I always forget the different methods of managing config. And there's one that explains that you can introduce a third folder, which would then introduce another directory here, and that in theory you can, like, should that be included here? Anyway, so I just went with the defaults now, which is active and staging, and I think the other one was something like versioned or something. Anyway, I'm not even going to go into that. Complicates things unless I'm instructed to. The other thing is that I tried to sneak in telemetry for this. And Indigo Zealous said, "Oh, the scope has changed." And I go, "Fair enough. I'm going to put it in another issue." It's like,
Yeah, that would be great to track.
Yeah.
yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, because Indigo Zealous said that there is no point because we don't have any current issue where we need the metric for that. But it's good to have metrics already for it when we need to make a decision. So I'll file a separate issue for that so that we can get that in. But yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, that will definitely be interesting to see. I think what will probably have happen at some point is that some distribution of backdrop on some hosting provider will probably enable it by default.
Like
And then
Pantheon.
suddenly you'll see hundreds of backdrop sites that are using database config.
Yep.
But yeah, that should be interesting.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. Okay, I'll file a follow up for that.
Okay, let's see here. Next up, this one, Tim will be happy about this one, I'm sure. Which is, let's replace the images, the 3 homepage images, with SVG images now that
Yes.
you can upload SVGs into image fields. This would be awesome, just for one, because they're going to be scalable. These are nice,
We
simple.
can change the background colors.
Well,
We can get rid of those 3 stupid dots on that home square cloud photo.
yeah,
It's
you
driving me
would, yeah,
crazy.
you can change the colors a little bit, but what would really be great would be if you could change it to match the color module color, but you can't.
That's a follow-up. That's a
Yeah,
follow-up.
that would be nice because image the scope of the SVG support in core is that we still output the SVGs that are uploaded through an image field as an image tag, not as an SVG tag.
Just with a source that points to the SVG.
Right.
Hmm.
And so that makes it so
That
you can
makes them
upload
much
an
harder to
SVG,
color.
yeah, and scale it and everything like that, but you can't apply CSS to it because it's
You
still
gotta
in
use
an
a
image tag.
mask. You can do it with a mask. That's what I
I'm
did
not
on
sure.
backdropcms.org to change the color of our logos, because on the web module, I also output them with an image tag in the 2.x version, and I had to change the colors.
Yeah,
Funkily.
but
It's
even-
possible, but it's hacky.
yeah, well, I mean, these include the background color right now. So if you
Yeah.
applied a mask, it would be a square. And so you would just color, you would put a big square over the top of it.
We put a square behind it. Just put like
Yeah,
a big blue square in the back, and then the SVG would have to be white on top of it.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
kind of gets into this weird like question of like,
What
you
is
know,
the image?
yeah, if you start writing CSS that's catered to the images that come out of core, that's not necessarily a very good thing.
Even if it's just like use the color module color.
Well,
I don't know. It's a follow-up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not easy to do, unfortunately, but we
Yeah.
could go ahead and swap these out for SVGs. And that would be a nice little enhancement on things.
There's a related awesome thing which I'm not sure whether SVGs make it easier or not. Now that you're saying about the color, it's an old issue. I remember filing it. There are libraries that allow you, for example, to provide, say, an image, say the logo of the business or something, and they deduct the amount of, I don't know, maybe 3 basic colors that comprise that. And there's a feature request that says, like, see how we manually specify, we have templates for bases to, what do we call them? Not templates. What do we call them? Schemes, color schemes. That's what we call it. Like when you change, there's
Palettes, I
a
think.
feature request that says upload an image. We extract the 3 basic colors and then we adjust your site, your whole site to match that, your logo
Yeah.
or your,
Joseph was working on that, wasn't he?
sorry?
Wasn't Joseph
Probably.
working on that?
I can't remember, but yeah.
No. He talked about it. I don't know if he's actually working on it or it's just the issue, but
That's
Yeah,
in the long list of awesome things that we have planned.
yeah, super in the future, maybe, if we wanted to come in and advocate for this. This is nothing, this is just a proposal. But over in the W3C CSS working group, there is a proposal for allowing images, SVGs that use the image tag to be styled with CSS. And this comes up with a hypothetical syntax for modifying CSS inside of an
Whoa.
image tag. So it's possible that if this drags on long enough, the problem may fix itself and we may actually be able to style an image with CSS after
Can you
all.
just hit the thumbs up on that first post there? Make sure they know we want this thing. How many people have liked it already? Only 8? This isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, it's actually relatively new. It was open
Oh,
last
okay.
year, so. But yeah, it gets into a bunch of people are like, well, there's something else that's kind of similar and this that is a little bit further along, but this one fits our use case better and is more limited in scope. So, all of this like let's change the HTML spec discussions get really into the weeds. Or CSS spec in this case, but still exciting that may eventually be possible. Okay. All right, let's get into something that's not 128 specific really, but Tim was asking about in the forum that Basis out of the box has this awful styling for the node links, that the read more link is on one line and then the list of comment links are on the next line. And if there was another link provided by another module, it would be on yet another line, I believe. So really kind of annoying the way that that's set up. And there's pull request. I don't think there's a screenshot. Oh yeah, here it is. From bug folder that modifies it from looking like this with a new line and commas to this, which uses pipes in between each link. And the scope of the CSS that's changed is fairly minimal. I posted a comment here saying that this is an RTL specific thing. So it's removing these chunks here and then adding padding, and that's it. And the question is this backwards compatible? Like is it going to break potentially sub-themed sites that use Basis as the base theme? Based on our previous, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I know.
Good supplemental style sheets to issue or supplemental selectors blocker. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you saying
it's a good poke in the ribs for me to go make a prototype for that. That's
yeah. So to answer the question, just generally, no, it's not backwards compatible. But this is the sort of thing where it's just like, I just want to do it anyway because it's so like bad the way that it is right now and it's so minimal the change that I just want to change it anyway. But that within I'm not sure that we even really have a solid policy on this because we have that issue about like what to do about backwards compatibility breaking changes. But I will say, based on our past behavior, if you want to say that is our policy, this would not be allowed. But
could we do it in a
it's
way
so
that's slightly
minimal.
less, like if we didn't add that padding, we just added the display block, that might be slightly safer, or remove the display block.
Just
know.
remove that stuff.
Yeah, like be a little less opinionated in the change because we know it'll be breaking.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Okay, well,
Yeah. I think it would be similar, right? Like, I mean, it would still probably break something for someone, right?
yeah. If we could break less things for less people, that would make it a lot more appealing than more things for more people, but that's hard to guess.
Yeah. I really don't like things like this. This is like something where it's like, you're going to fix it for the large majority of people that are using Basis, but you're going to break it for like 1 or 2 people, and I'm just like,
I mean, how many people
Never
are
know.
running? Do we have stats on how many people are running Basis unchanged? That might be good too if we could figure
Yes.
out.
That would actually be nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think that I have a follow-up for whether it's being used as a base theme and yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. You'd also have to combine that with something like, you know, the usage statistics for Tatsu, because Tatsu subthemes basis.
Yeah, but if it's
And
subtheme basis, it would be counted.
correct.
Yeah.
But
So that's what we want, right?
But then we could go and look at Tatsu and see if it would break Tatsu, and then we could subtract Tatsu from the number
I
of the
see.
subtheme.
We'll break
subthemes.
anything as
Tatsu.
long as you're using basis or Tatsu, you're fine, but anything else. Not our problem. Yep. Interesting.
So Tim, it's probably disappointing, but I don't think that on our current policies we can change it.
This is not an issue I feel strongly about, but I've been trying to clean up some issues that
Yeah.
I
this one
noticed
looked like it's ready to, it's done, right? The only thing we really need to decide is it compatible or not? And if it's compatible, I'd love to get it in. If not, I'd like to put it off my list and look at other things.
Yep, not
Okay.
achievable easily in our current.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not overly disappointed by this, just glad to have some clarity, that's all.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So I also want to bring up some items around Icon API. There's some kind of fun issues that are happening here, or fun work that's happening here. One is Laren is working on an icon browser. Tim, I think I was hoping that you might be able to show this capability if you're ready to do that.
I am. I have the site up and loaded.
Great.
So-
Let's see it.
I'll just drive the site. You tell me what you want to look at. I'll start with the. So this is a pretty blank site that I've just added. Well, with the latest with that PR or with that module. So this is a contrib module. Yeah, and it's configuration media icon browser. Well, I can start out and describe what I'm seeing, but feel free to jump in, Nate. It basically it's just showing all of the icons provided by Core now. That's basically the Phosphorus library, right? Do we have anything that's not Phosphor? Is everything, is that all this is, or are there some other icons that we've added already?
and that's it.
Yep,
Okay.
just Phosphor. Yep.
And it was all on one page. One of the updates recently has been to add a pager, so you can page through it. You can filter by, let's just try something like arrow. There we go. There are different sizes, although they're not a huge difference. So let's go from small to extra large.
But the sizes aren't actually part of the
Yeah.
library. They're just a way you can
Display
see them,
choice.
right? It's like
Yeah,
a
just a
view. Yeah.
preview thing.
Nice.
Sure. Actually, I want to look at this again. Medium. It's interesting. It seems to get like bolder, but anyways. So we can filter by style, fill, or outline. Okay. And then we have core module or theme. We shouldn't have any for themes. No. Well, core would be all of them, except I did add the on the web module just so I could show. Jen has I thought, no, let me verify.
Is it on?
Yeah, I
Oh,
might
it
not
might
have
also
it.
not be an outline icon.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah,
I
that's
don't-
probably it. I didn't
yeah.
realize that filter was still on. Because it was working. Yeah, let's reset. And now do modules. Oh, why not?
Oh,
It was
was this
working.
working before?
Yeah, it was, absolutely.
Do you have on the web settings, do you have it set to actually use those icons? Because they might not
No.
be registered unless they're enabled.
Well, unless that's changed. Initially, I did test this before on a raw site where all I did was I loaded the module.
Yeah,
And
check, make sure it's still on default values, or did you just do this again?
I just added the module right before we came on, so.
I think that you need to
I
use the
don't see any of
2.x
them.
version too. This is the current stable release, it looks like.
Oh, that's
Oh,
probably
yeah.
it. That's probably
Yeah.
it. I did, yes. When I originally tested this, I downloaded it, the dev version. You're right. So I mean, I don't think it's that important to show that. I'll just say that yeah. So you
No, I
haven't
wanna go
released
make
that?
sure.
Jen?
No, I haven't released it. I wasn't
Okay.
entirely sure it was working completely, so.
Yeah, I will test it again later. I don't think it's important to demonstrate it. There is a screenshot in the issue, in the icon browser issue queue, but it basically shows all the social media icons here when you sort by module for on the web. And in theory, I guess that will work with other modules as they add them. On the web is the only module that I know of. If anybody knows of any themes or modules that have already implemented the new API, let me know.
I really just spent like half a day not wanting to do my real work. And so I'm
Right.
like, I'm gonna go play with the icon browser. So I like added all the new icons. And then I realized that a bunch of the ones that on the web needed were missing. And so I was like, well, I'll just register all my previous SVGs with the icon API too to make sure that that worked. And then I got done with it and was like, okay, now I have to go do all the work I've been like putting off for the last half a day. But yeah, so I didn't make a release because I didn't actually need it for
Sure.
anything. I just wanted to play with the new toy.
Okay, so I haven't like used that feature in real life or anything. All I did was enable the module with the dev version and view it in the icon browser. The one thing I didn't show is if we reset the filter is this, you can click on them and it does, it tells you what provided it. And we tested this with on the web and it does show on the web. It gives you, well, this stuff I don't fully understand the difference between active and inactive, but it also gives you the code you need to apply these with
Yeah,
PHP.
it is a little bit
because
better.
you have to, don't you have to like load each icon as needed in order to make them active?
Okay, that's
Yeah,
not a
so-
question for me, somebody
That was a
else.
question for me. Yeah.
So yeah, so if you want to use your icon in CSS or JavaScript, then you have to use either backdrop add icons, like you would backdrop add JS, backdrop add CSS, to register the path of that icon into a CSS property. The recommended way for adding icons is using hook library info. So when you add a library, right, it adds CSS, JavaScript, JavaScript settings. Now you can also add icons into the list of information returned by hook library info. So it adds the CSS and the paired icon CSS properties all together. So that's the ideal way of adding icons to the page, is that your CSS is added with the library and then also the icons are registered in the same thing. But yeah, I find this like a little bit strange, like the active versus like or available versus not available, to be strange, because it's going to change from page to page based on which CSS files you have loaded. So I'm not quite sure where Laren is headed with this concept. I think that he might be anticipating that this icon browser would be loaded in a modal or something like that, so you would have it in different places. But still, like, the list of icons that's available will really change depending on you know where you're applying this icon browser to. Obviously, if a module was saying like, what are the icons for this, it also could dynamically load the necessary icons based on the ones that were selected. But I do like that he's trying to surface like how to print them out, which for developers right now, this is going to be a new concept. And so it's nice that this is being demonstrated. So I'm also not quite sure where he's headed as far as like, you know, what this will be, you know, as a core feature versus a contrib module. It's possible that right now he's just kind of trying to see what kinds of things are out there for contrib land. And so, although I don't think that we would put something like code samples in a core module, it's nice that it's here in contrib.
Yeah, it could
So-
be part of things like Devel and such modules that help with.
So back a while, Nate, I asked if there would be any kind of at least browser like this in core, just because it like makes the feature feel realer to people who aren't you know, module developers. So I'm really glad he did this even in contrib, because now it's just like, oh, you know, even if I'm not actually implementing icons in this way, it just makes the whole feature feel much realer to me. And
Mhm.
like some, I mean, it enticed me to learn more about it as opposed to just knowing it's there and not knowing where to start. I think the other thing is do we have any documentation yet on this feature? On how to use it? I mean, if I were a complete beginner themer and I said, oh, I heard about this new icon API in Core,
Yeah,
where do
no,
I
there's
go to
not,
learn about it?
yeah, there's not a change record and there's not a documentation page on it specifically. The only thing that there is at this point is it's documented inline as part of the other associated things. So there's, backdrop add icons, icon, and hook library info. All of the documentation for that on the doc site is all updated, but you'd have to know about it in order to go find it.
One thing that we could do, but I'm not sure if people would go looking for it there, but it could provide some exposure, is that the fact that this is a library and an open source project. So eventually we will need to update it to newer versions. So it also deserves a status page report with its version. And that there we can add a link to our documentation of how to use that.
I've been thinking about this too. Like right now we have a page called like jQuery. It only has one value on it. I was thinking we should repurpose that to be like external libraries and we can put jQuery and CKEditor and Font Awesome and like all of the stuff that Backdrop uses with its library versions on there. And then that way, if we ever have to like toggle stuff between versions again, we'll have like one standard unified interface for it. Not a problem yet because we don't have anything other to toggle other than jQuery, but I was thinking that could
Yeah.
be a good place to put it.
Just to draw attention to the other thing that I did here was I switched to the Gin theme just because particularly this looks pretty slick in the Gin theme. It's themed a little better than it is in 7. So in terms of my understanding sort of from hearing later in terms of like where he's going with all of this is that he's not maybe entirely sure and that he's looking for input. So Nate, if you haven't expressed those thoughts that you just did to him, either we should get him to watch this or you might want to make some comments in the issue team.
He also wanted to play with the new toy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also speaking of Gen, because Laren is the maintainer for Gen. This toolbar that's up across the top here,
Yep.
I wonder if it's using Gen's icons or if he registered the Gen's icons with Icon API, or if he
And
like
then they would show
overrode
up
them.
under theme. If you go to theme under provider there, Tim,
Oh
the
yeah, I guess
icon
they
search.
wouldn't they?
Yeah.
We also have
Yeah.
an older
yet.
issue number 3819, which I'm the only person signing in there since 2019, but it says allow if not all certain menu items to have icons. So a browser of sorts or maybe a drop down could be useful there.
So I don't fully understand what I'm saying right now, but I think when talking about this browser, somebody brought up like, in the future there being a UI where you could,
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
right in the menu, and whether or not that would be compatible with the icon browser, which I'm not sure if that even makes sense, but. And I think Laren's response was sort of like, well, I don't know where this is going. That's why I just want to get it out there and get feedback. So people could tell me how we might want to use this in the future. And then.
Well, are we calling our implementation Icon API officially? Is that what we call it?
That's what I've been calling the thing that's in core.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
think
because it was
Icon
on the
APIs.
GitHub issue. Yeah.
It did make a whole new .inc file, icon.inc. So
Right,
yeah, I think Icon API is valid.
Yeah,
It's
because
really
the
just a
respective
collection of functions though.
the respective module that I linked to from that issue, the issue I'm talking about is 3819, so 3819 is the Icon API Drupal module, which is it basically allows you to add icons to menus, and I think it supports Font Awesome or something.
So the icon API, our icon API also does that. Any menu item can define its icon, which is how we got it for the admin bar.
Yeah, but it doesn't have it in the user interface for menu
No.
links.
Oh, is
Yeah,
that what the other one did? Was there a UI for it, Greg?
I'm not sure.
Yes, yeah. So there's a screenshot of that issue.
Okay, I'll go check it.
Actually, and just to clarify, now, as I think about it, I think the question that somebody asked was, what about like in CK Editor in the body field, if you wanted to have a browser? And maybe that's what, like this wasn't designed to address that at all. But should we be able to use this if people wanted to like create
Well,
some sort of a tool where you could drop and, browse through the icons like you do for images and drop them into the body field. And again, I think nothing's been done for that now, but I don't know if he would do this differently if that were possible or under consideration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing this is doing that Core doesn't provide right now is Core doesn't actually even have a way of saying, give me all of the icons in the system. And so Icon Browser is doing some legwork here that Core isn't even providing yet, of like finding all of the icons in the system. Core only has the ability to say, I'm looking for one particular icon, go and locate it, and it determines whether it's in a theme module or the core directory. And so this is definitely providing some filling in some
Okay.
holes in the current API that would be necessary if we were to have some kind of CK editor browser versus the report browser or anything else. So there's probably some things here that we can pull out and make a part of Core.
This is a bit of a tangent, but can I ask real quickly, sort of a similar question? I just went to manage files and wanted recently and wanted to browse them like I do, in the CK editor image browser. Is that possible right now to just access the browser when you're not editing a node? You know what I'm saying? Just I want to browse through the files directory.
Yeah, I don't think it's exposed, but it is a view, and so you could add a
Okay.
page to
Sure,
the
that makes
view
sense,
and
yeah.
then make it accessible that way.
Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but it's this issue made me think of it.
So
Or,
Tim, have you also seen issue 6491, which is it's a little bit, it's not that, a little bit broader, but it says decide on a strategy on what to do. Like some people like to, when you have the full admin bar and you have a person that has all permissions, then they see all these options that we see at the top. But usually when you log in as a content editor, you only see like maybe 2 or 3 first options. Like maybe you see the dashboard if you have the permission or the content. And what people, site administrators like to do for the content editors is that they place icons there at the top to help them out, sort of like shortcuts.
Mhm.
And all of these get the default icon, which is like a chevron, like an arrow. So that issue is about deciding what to do with those icons and exposing some way for people to customize the icon when they place that. It could be extended to other menus as well, but the only common use cases that I see, it's either in the admin bar or the primary navigation of a site. Like I don't see icons being used commonly elsewhere.
yeah.
Like
So you're
sometimes
saying that
people,
maybe having the ability to specify an icon on a menu link would be weirdly
yes,
specialized. Yeah.
because there are people that build intranets and they treat their site as an application sort of, and then that's where icons become useful because they have custom menus that do things.
Well, we're out of time, but I did have a couple more things on the agenda, and I'll just mention that they're out there. That we're also seeing the Icon API being integrated into existing contrib projects, other contrib projects, including the Bootstrap Icons project and the Font Awesome project. So kind of fun to see all of these icons that were registered or did things in different ways, all kind of starting to leverage the Icon API. Yeah, and so far it seems like it's mostly good things.
Yeah.
So okay, well that's it. That's all we've got.
Just before we close, is anyone going to be sprinting over the weekend? Like when, or like how long do we have? Maybe another 5 days, right?
6 days, yeah.
6 days.
So we'll come out Wednesday next week.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to sprint over the coming weekend just to get certain things done.
Yeah, I'll throw it out there that so we already merge the admin bar change. I think that was the one thing that a lot of people were complaining about. We still have time to update CK editor, you know, like that pull request is out there, even though it doesn't do a whole lot. It would be good to get on the latest version. But yeah, other things, you know, they're not that are pending. Most of them aren't dependent on the 128 release happening. So there's not a whole lot of hurry there because it could be in 128.1. But yeah, still really excited for 128. Probably the most important thing is that we write documentation and prepare the blog post for 128. So
Yeah,
Change
we
records.
should ping
Yeah.
Luke. This icon API should be almost be like a blog post on its own. I
Yeah.
suppose that's going to be most of it anyway, but it's a big deal.
okay. All right. Well, let's close for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And thanks to those out there that watch these. And we'll see you on the internet.